I just took loads of them.
Driver T. Prosher, Royal Field Artillery. Private W.J. Norden, 1st Battalion, Royal Dublin Fusiliers. Private J. Garbutt, Worcestershire Regiment. Private Joe Howard Fletcher Robbins, Lincolnshire Regiment. Private Percy Francis Gale, Dorsetshire Regiment. Corporal Harry Frederick Whitten, Coldstream Guards. Regimental Sergeant Major F. Rayner, West Yorkshire Regiment, Prince of Wales Own. Private Winfield James Houston, South Lancashire Regiment. Private F. W. Price, Duke of Cornwall's Light Infantry. Private S. D. Macaulay, Royal Scots. Private Arthur Moon, Hampshire Regiment. Corporal Harry Parry, Gloucestershire Regiment. Lance Corporal C. Dartnell, Duke of Cornwall's Light Infantry. Corporal Ronald Wilcox, South Wales Borderers. Private Frederick Randall, East Surrey Regiment. Lance Corporal C.H.W. Parsons, East Yorkshire Regiment. Sapper Frank Rayleigh, Royal Engineers. Private Ernest Hall, Leicestershire Regiment. Private T. Black, Leicestershire Regiment. Lance Corporal J. Skelly, Cameroonians, Scottish Rifles. Private W. Holt, Royal Army Medical Corps. Private E. Jones, Middlesex Regiment. Private A. Jackson, Leicestershire Regiment. Private W. H. Rowe, Leicestershire Yeomanry. Private W. Hall, Duke of Wellington's West Riding Regiment. Private J. Tyson, King's Own Scottish Borderers. Private B. Tyson, Highland Light Infantry. Private W. H. Spooner, Royal Berkshire Regiment. Private H. Blanking, London Regiment, Royal Fusiliers. Lance Corporal F. Holder, Hampshire Regiment. Private A. J. Quinn, the Loyal North Lancashire Regiment. Private C. J. Thorndyke, Hampshire Regiment. Private G. W. Collins, King's Own, Royal Lancaster Regiment. Private H. Crudgington, London Regiment. Private W. H. Curtis, Machine Gun Corps, Cavalry. Gunner C. T. Blowman, Royal Garrison Artillery. Sapper T. Flitch, Australian Tunnelling Corps. Sapper E. Earnshaw, Royal Engineers. Lance Sergeant W.F. Tate, Rifle Brigade. Private C. Spiller, War Roush Fusiliers. Private W. Ollerenshaw, Manchester Regiment. Private J. Maloney, King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry. Private J. Hopwood, Royal Welsh Fusiliers. Private Winfred Thomas Ashton, Royal Warwickshire Regiment. Lance Corporal Frederick A. Paynes, Somerset Light Infantry. Private Charles Henry Ferris, Royal Fusiliers. Sergeant W. Rowbottom, Northumberland Fusiliers. Driver R.H. Sumner, Royal Field Artillery. Sergeant Ernest Harden, the King's, Liverpool Regiment. Gunner C. Dodd, Royal Field Artillery. Private Olaf Milford Johansson, Australian Infantry. Private Bertrand Stanley Coll, King's Own, Royal Lancaster Regiment. Private Albert Whittle, Manchester Regiment. Private Edward Greenwood, South Lancashire Regiment. Private Ernest Greenwood, South Lancashire Regiment. Private William Henry Sutcliffe, Canterbury Regiment. Sergeant Sidney George Franks, East Surrey Regiment. Private Edward Owen Jones, King's Shropshire Light Infantry. Private G. Irwin, Gordon Highlanders. Lance Corporal Leonard Harrison, Sherwood Foresters, Notts and Derby Regiment. Private George William Hogg, Sherwood Foresters, Notts and Derby Regiment. Private W. Earnshaw, Cambridgeshire Regiment. Sergeant Harold Stanley Hicking, Army Cyclist Corps. Private William John Webber, South Staffordshire Regiment. Sapper Herbert Charles Humphreys, Royal Engineers. Sergeant Arthur Robbins, Royal Engineers. Private Albert Charles Henry Whitting, Wellington Regiment. Private Hannon Baronham, Cheshire Regiment. Private Frank Ryder, Seaforth Highlanders. Private A. Ryder, Royal Welsh Fusiliers. Private H.W. Mitchell, London Regiment, Royal Fusiliers. Private Jonathan Fenton, the Loyal North Lancashire Regiment. Private Frank Leslie Olive, Machine Gun Corps, Infantry. Private R.F. Potter, Kent Cyclist Battalion. Driver J.M. Mace, Royal Engineers. Sergeant G. Graves, Royal Dublin Fusiliers. Lance Corporal J. Bias, Border Regiment. Lance Corporal S. Norris, Wiltshire Regiment. Sergeant F. J. Templeman, Lincolnshire Regiment. Private R. Leach, Cameronians, Scottish Rifles. Private W. Leach, Cameronians, Scottish Rifles. Lance Corporal C. Mallet, London Regiment. Private J. Childs, London Regiment. Private W. McQuillan, London Regiment. Private C. Roots, East Surrey Regiment. Private C. Quinn, Hampshire Regiment. Private J. Quinn, Hampshire Regiment. Private J. Smith, King's Own, Royal Lancaster Regiment. Private R. Inman, Royal Fusiliers. Private J. E. Clegg, Devonshire Regiment. Private R. Wild, Manchester Regiment. Private J. Endersby, King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry. Private R. B. Craig, Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders. Private A. D. Perry, Duke of Wellington's, West Riding Regiment. Gunner C. Keer, Royal Field Artillery. Private F. J. Middleton, Hampshire Regiment. Private J. Williamson, Manchester Regiment. Private G. Roberts, North Staffordshire Regiment. Lance Corporal R. Dolan, Durham Light Infantry. Private L. Keer, Northamptonshire Regiment. Sergeant J.G. Spence, Highland Light Infantry. Private E. Horton, Tank Corps. Private H. Molyneux, the Kings, Liverpool Regiment. Lance Corporal S. O'Donnell, Irish Guards. Gunner H. W. Rolfe, Royal Field Artillery. Private C. H. Garmond, Hertfordshire Regiment. Private R. Kendall, Welsh Regiment. Private H. Kendall, Royal Fusiliers. Gunner J. Swarbrick, Royal Field Artillery. Private E. A. White, Royal Fusiliers. Private L. H. Garner, Royal Fusiliers. Lance Corporal J. W. Hudson, Canadian Infantry. Private A. Stone, Bedfordshire Regiment. Private O. Grunham, Durham Light Infantry. Private J. R. Emmington, Essex Regiment. Private W. Smith, King's Own, Royal Lancashire Regiment. Private W. A. Ridow, Canadian Corps Cyclist Battalion. Private H. T. Imbert, Border Regiment. Private J. Rivers, Sherwood Foresters, Notts and Derby Regiment. Lance Corporal J. McHugh, North Staffordshire Regiment. Private T. Cartman, West Yorkshire Regiment, Prince of Wales' Own. Private N. Cowland, Royal Fusiliers. Private J. Rowley, North Staffordshire Regiment. Private L. Slatcher, Lincolnshire Regiment. Private H. Lark, Lancashire Fusiliers. Private P. Doughton, East Yorkshire Regiment. Private W. J. King, Essex Regiment. Private J. S. Davidson, Gordon Highlanders. Gunner W. W. Brown, Royal Field Artillery. Private S. Gardner, Grenadier Guards. Private M. P. James, Duke of Wellington's, West Riding Regiment. Private B. W. Smart, North Staffordshire Regiment. Private E. Aylott, West Yorkshire Regiment, Prince of Wales' Own. Private P. Riley, Irish Guards. Sergeant F. N. Woodger, South African Infantry. Private J. W. Hibbard, Sherwood Foresters, Notts and Derby Regiment. Lance Corporal H. Hearn, Lancashire Fusiliers. Private S. C. Mace, Coldstream Guards. Private W. N. Goff, York and Lancaster Regiment. Lance Corporal D. Geddes, King's Own Scottish Borderers. Private E. Aston, Royal Fusiliers. Driver A. H. Darling, Royal Field Artillery. Corporal H. Easter, King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry. Driver T. Duckworth, Royal Field Artillery. Private J. Lee, Canadian Infantry. Private B. Dodds, Durham Light Infantry. Private G. S. Standen, Coldstream Guards. Private T. Williams, Machine Gun Corps, Infantry. Private F. W. Jarvis, Gloucestershire Regiment. Private J. Delaney, Essex Regiment. Lance Corporal R. Sumner, South Lancashire Regiment. Lance Sergeant J. S. Wright, Royal Inniskilling Fusiliers. Gunner W. Thorpe, Royal Garrison Artillery. Private T. Wright, North Irish Horse. Private W. E. Hobson, Royal Inniskilling Fusiliers. Private G. E. Williams, Canadian Infantry. Rifleman F. Didsbury, South Lancashire Regiment. Private C. J. Grove, Northamptonshire Regiment. Bandsman P. Eckett, Royal Inniskilling Fusiliers. Private W. Scollon, South Lancashire Regiment. Rifleman F. J. S. Drew, London Regiment, Queen Victoria's Rifles. Private W. T. Jones, Australian Infantry. Private J. W. B. Bush, Australian Infantry. Private J. R. Frame, Suffolk Regiment. Private H. Chandler, Machine Gun Corps, Infantry. Sapper T. Charlesworth, Royal Engineers. Lance Corporal A. H. Lord, London Regiment. Rifleman E. Wattenbach, London Regiment, 1st Surrey Rifles. Sapper W. Matthews, Royal Engineers. Private J. Higginbotham, Royal Welsh Fusiliers. Private J. H. Boardman, East Lancashire Regiment. Private P. O. Sullivan, Royal Munster Fusiliers. Private P. C. Farley, Royal Fusiliers. Gunner G. S. Hargreaves, Royal Field Artillery. Gunner J. Whittaker, Machine Gun Corps, Infantry. Private J. T. Macon, Lincolnshire Regiment. Private J. W. Matthews, Bedfordshire Regiment. Private P. Hurd, Royal Scots. Private E. W. Johnson, Essex Regiment. Private H. Roscoe, Essex Regiment. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Yes.